Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today in chapel is Dr. Wally Novak. Dr. Novak is in his third year teaching chemistry at the college. He graduated from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville with a degree in chemistry before receiving his PhD in chemistry and chemical biology from the University of California at San Francisco. Before coming to Wabash, he worked as a National Institute of Health postdoc fellow at Brandeis University and as a consultant for the Harvard School of Public Health. Dr. Novak's talk, or giving his talk titled Words of Wisdom to Never Be Bored, is Dr. Wally Novak.
I'd like to thank the Sphinx Club for inviting me to give a chapel talk this year. Just one of the many great things about Wabash College are the traditions that we share. Although perhaps contrary to the definition, traditions do change. The tradition of wearing freshman pots has largely vanished, but for the Phi Delts, and there is no more greased pole fight. But new traditions, such as the Monon mustache, appear, and now both Hampton-Sydney and Morehouse College have challenged us to see which college can grow the most mustaches. Men, let's bring sexy back. I hope you will all heed Tyler's email and rise to this challenge to grow not only the most, but also the best and sexiest mustaches possible. And let us not lose sight of the true meaning behind the contest. Let us not forget that for each mustache we grow, we raise awareness for prostate and other cancers affecting men. And what better outlet for our machismo than the mustache? I mean, let's just think about the manliness of the mustache. Consider the men who have dared to wear great mustaches. Men like Tom Selleck, Frank Zappa, Harry Shearer's portrayal of Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap, and Burt Reynolds. That was fun. But I'm not here to talk today about great mustaches. I'm here to pass on words of wisdom. To be frank with you, these are really not my own words of wisdom. I'm young enough that I have not yet attained wisdom, and I'm old enough to know this is fact. Wabash lost one of its giants with the recent passing of Vic Powell. While he was dean of the college in 1973, he gave a speech at the senior breakfast that is published in these fleeting years. In his speech, Vic talks about how he and his wife were worried about their friend and colleague, Ted Gronert, a Wabash professor of history for more than 30 years, and he was moving into a nursing home. Ted told Vic not to worry, and that, quote, "I've never been bored a day in my life." That phrase struck Vic as summing up what it means to be liberally educated. And I quote, "To be able to find always in life something of interest, something to learn, for one cannot be truly learning and be bored. They are antithetical." Ted's words struck Vic, and Vic's words in turn struck me heavily. It seems to me that this is perhaps one characteristic of an ideal student. A student that is in class not for the grade, but simply to learn. A student that is there to learn because learning itself is exciting. A student who isn't bored. Perhaps this student does exist, but perhaps, like an ideal gas, the ideal student will remain only a good approximation of how students should tackle learning. After all, we don't live in a vacuum and life happens. You'll become busy and you won't always have time to investigate the topics with extensive rigor. You'll write that paper at the last minute. And while not your best work, you might get an okay grade and life will go on. And life goes on, and you'll find that you have to take a philosophy course to fill your distribution requirements. You'll find that you really enjoy the class, but you'll somehow find that you're often too busy to complete the readings. After all, you have to work your esh hours. You can't skip out on the trip to B-dubs or that bar in the city to the north. You'll manage to make somewhat relevant comments in class from time to time, and you might manage to get that A you were hoping for, even though it wasn't really your best work. And life goes on. It goes on, and you'll find that you really don't want to take that second semester of physical chemistry. You'll think that you were lucky enough to get an A that first semester, but you aren't so sure you'll be lucky the next time. After all, it's a hard class. It's a class you'll have to struggle with to grasp the concepts. It's something that will require time and effort on your part. And somehow, 4 years, plus or minus, after it all began, you're done. You have become wiser, though certainly not yet wise, and you will have learned many things and satisfied many requirements. For your achievements, you are to be conferred with a diploma. And 14 years later, I find that I regret not taking these classes more seriously and not challenging myself enough academically. Yes, I skipped some readings in my philosophy class. And yes, that's me that didn't take the second semester of PChem. Well, I did sit in on some of the classes, but I got busy, and life went on. I wish I had taken the time as an undergraduate to delve more deeply into Plato's Republic and the Bhagavad Gita. I wish I'd taken that next math class and that I'd been able to complete a minor in German as well as biology. I wish I'd struggled through that second semester of PChem. I know it's impossible to take every course that you might possibly want to take in college, but I wish these things, gentlemen, because I believe they would have made me not only a better educator, but more importantly, a more fulfilled individual. I won't lie to you and tell you I didn't take any hard classes. In fact, organic chemistry was the class that made me really want to major in chemistry. But this idea that some classes are hard and some are easy is misleading. We are each individuals with different strengths and weaknesses. And this is what makes the liberal arts education so great. We each get the opportunity here at Wabash to study topics outside our comfort zone. I love hearing from the students in Chem 101, when he took it a year ago, how different this is from any other class they have ever taken. Similarly, those Div 1 majors are encouraged to learn about philosophy and music. I, like so many seniors at Wabash, waited until my last semester, my senior year, to finish my distribution requirements. Music 101. The instructor on day one said he would make the class challenging, and he did. I spent hours in the library listening to Handel's Messiah on record. On record. I also started tuning into the local classical stations. In graduate school, I became a season ticket holder at the symphony. That class sparked the love of something new, something that I'm sharing with my children. My son calls it adult music. And he seems to favor the late Renaissance and Baroque periods. He likes the tempo. I enjoyed this class, not because it is inherently interesting, though my colleagues in the music department might argue this point, but rather because I allowed myself to be completely absorbed into the material, to learn and to not be bored. According to my alma mater, I had to check the appropriate box on my graduation checklist. But as a student taking the class, I took another viewpoint. I viewed the class as a real chance for me to learn about classical music and immersed myself in the class. I became engaged and I asked questions. I talked with the professor after class. I paid for that class with my money, and I wanted to get something out of it. I got more out of that class than that A could ever tell. And it is my sincere hope that you will strive to get as much out of your distribution classes here at Wabash. The distribution component of your education is something that the faculty here does not take lightly. And what those distribution classes should be is a complex question to entertain. It is impossible to identify a certain set of classes that every Wabash man should take to become liberally educated. But while the identification of specific coursework is perhaps impossible, I believe devising a rationale for the distribution courses is not. Take, for example, that we require you as students to take 2 laboratory science classes. As a nation, we need to be scientifically literate. To compete in the global economy, we need to continue to develop new products and technologies. We need to have citizens that can design and manage these technical industries. We need scientifically literate citizens to consider and debate global issues that have foundations in science. Yet as a nation, we are falling seriously short of reaching this goal. In a recent report by the Center for the Future of Teaching and Learning, it was found that 40% of all California elementary teachers surveyed spent 60 minutes or less on science instruction each week. Less than 1 hour per week. Furthermore, only 33% of elementary teachers surveyed felt very prepared to teach science, while 90% felt prepared to teach English and math. The results of this study indicate that California is falling very short of the National Research Council's vision of science and learning, which states, "Inquiry is central to science learning. When engaging in inquiry, students describe objects and events, ask questions, construct explanations, test those explanations against current scientific knowledge, and communicate their ideas to others. They identify their assumptions, use critical and logical thinking, and consider alternative explanations. In this way, students actively develop their understanding of science by combining scientific knowledge with reasoning and thinking skills." This goal is impossible for children to reach if they aren't looking at scientific problems for more than 60 minutes a week. Unfortunately, this lack of exposure at a young age may also lead to an anxiety of the subject as they get older. I also hope that you might notice that the inquiry model of science involves experimentation, critical thinking, and communication. All of these are pillars of the liberal arts education here at Wabash. The National Science Teachers Association's official position is that the laboratory experience is an integral component of science instruction. I want to read this section of the NSTA's position. "A hallmark of science is that it generates theories and laws that must be consistent with observations. Much of the evidence from these observations is collected during laboratory investigations. A school laboratory investigation is defined as an experience in the laboratory, classroom, or the field that provides students with opportunities to interact directly with natural phenomenon or with data collected by others using tools, materials, data collection techniques, and models. Throughout the process, students should have opportunities to design investigations, engage in scientific reasoning, manipulate equipment, record data, analyze results, and discuss their findings. These skills and knowledge fostered by laboratory investigations are an important part of inquiry, the process of asking questions and conducting experiments as a way to understand the natural world. While reading about science, using computer simulations, and observing teacher demonstrations may be valuable, they are not a substitute for laboratory investigations by students. At the college level, all students should have opportunities to experience inquiry-based science laboratory investigations as defined in the introduction. That's the previous paragraph I just read. All introductory courses should include labs as an integral part of the science curriculum. Laboratory experience should help students learn to work independently and collaboratively, incorporate and critique the published work of others in their communications, use scientific reasoning and appropriate laboratory techniques to define and solve problems, and draw and evaluate conclusions based on quantitative evidence. Labs should correlate closely with lectures and not be separate activities. Exposure to rigorous, inquiry-based labs at the college level also is important because most teachers develop their laboratory teaching techniques based on their own college coursework laboratory experiences. The Wabash faculty doesn't just blindly follow the recommendation of the National Science Teachers Association or other educational groups. We offer introductory courses in science with lab components because that is how science is done. We ask questions, develop hypotheses, and we test those hypotheses in the lab. Student comments from my Chemistry 101 introductory course classes demonstrate that the labs help facilitate an understanding of chemistry. The faculty work hard to provide you, Wabash men, with an outstanding education, an education that will see each of you through a wide range of potential futures. I know it is hard to do the hard thing, to take that class that you perceive as difficult, but doing easy things doesn't necessarily make us happy. Just ask the track team or the football team or wrestlers or swimmers or any other sport team. The difficult victories are the ones we savor. When our football team beats Kenyon, they make it look easy. And yes, it's a victory, but it isn't the game we'll talk about 10 years from now. But to beat Wittenberg, a team that challenges us, that is a victory that we'll savor for years to come. Treat your education the same way. As a student, you will work to your strengths, but you should also develop breadth as well. Challenge yourself in the classroom, and by challenging yourself, you'll never be bored. Challenge yourself, and you'll be a better Wabash man. Challenge yourself, and it will show others the true value of your Wabash diploma. I've asked myself, like Greg Castanius, what makes Wabash great? It isn't great educators or great sport teams or the lack of co-eds on campus, although we have all of those. You could probably list several things in your own mind that makes Wabash great. The sense of brotherhood, the mustaches, the excellent facilities, the chemistry club, and the titration races at 7 p.m. this evening in Hayes 104. Please be sure to attend. But for me, what stands out as making Wabash great is what Wabash alumni have gone on to do. The day that Wabash graduates stop doing great things after graduation is the day that prospective students will stop seeing Wabash as a great college. And when those alumni give back so generously with time and talent, it reflects greatly on Wabash. Wabash has an outstanding network of alumni in a variety of fields, from business to law to medicine. My first year at Wabash, my wife and I were invited to dine with some of the trustees of the college, and we had the opportunity to sit with Fred Wilson and his wife. I didn't know who Fred was other than I knew he was a trustee of the college. At some point during the evening, I asked him what he did for a living. He went on to say how he was retired now, but before that he was the president and CEO of Saks Fifth Avenue, and how before that he was the president and CEO of Donna Karan, and how before that he was the president of the duty-free stores. I was very impressed. The board is a veritable who's who's list of business, medicine, and law professionals. This list is peppered with medical doctors, CEOs, vice presidents, directors, attorneys, and these men give back to the college in no small way. They're highly successful individuals who have no doubt challenged themselves in their lives. And you are fortunate that these men and the entire National Association of Wabash Men have as one of their stated goals to assist students in the planning and establishment of careers. Yes, this alumni network contributes largely to the success of Wabash as an institution. And someday, gentlemen, the college will look to you to fill those shoes. and those are big shoes to fill. As students, you should demand of yourselves to be challenged. Take hard classes and challenge yourselves. Challenge yourselves with community service and helping those who are less fortunate. You can only get out of your education and your life what you are willing to put into it. Go to the library and sit and read more on a subject that interests you. Talk with your professors after class. Talk with your neighbors and community leaders. Allow yourselves to become immersed in a subject. Allow yourselves to become immersed in life. Allow yourselves to find something new to love. Gentlemen, heed Vic Powell's words and allow yourselves to become liberally educated. Allow yourselves to never be bored. Thank you.
A couple of announcements. First, you've seen my emails. You've heard Dr. Novak's exhortations. Please join the Movember movement. We don't want to be upstaged by our other all-male rivals, and so I'm trying, and it doesn't come in very well, but I may have to put Rogaine on it or dye it brown or black or something. But grow a mustache for the month of November, help raise awareness of men's cancers. On Friday, Admissions is hosting Top 10 Visit Day. Cross Country competes at the Hoosier Invitational, and the Senior Council Activities Committee is hosting Casino Night from 8 to 11 in the Allen Center. Saturday night, wrestling competes at Loras College. Swimming is home against Rose Holman, and football plays against the other Evil Tigers from Wittenberg University for the North Coast Athletic Conference Championship. A programming note on Sunday, make sure that you fall back your clocks. It is the end of daylight savings time. Also, Dean Raiders would like to talk with those assembled out in the front of the chapel after the conclusion of Old Wabash. Thank you. Please rise and sing Old Wabash. From the hills of Maine, the western plain, where the cotton is blowing, the gloomy shade of the north, the pine, the light of the southern seas. There's a name held here in a color which you ever find glowing, and tears shall rise from longing eyes that floats on the evening breeze. When day is done, the western sun is painting in flashing glory across the sky, the gorgeous dyes, a color we love so well. We love to sit as the shadows fade and breathe in song and story. We love to shout as the